Hey everybody, welcome back. Yeah. All right, so this is going to require some backstory for you to fully understand. For those who don't know, I did comedy when I was living in Tucson for a year straight. I went at least once a week to laughs, but I would often do other spots like Mr. Heads and stuff. And I just, would grind. I only did it for a year, so I basically, at the end of the year was still just mediocre at best, and that's fine. It's whatever. But along the way, you get to know, quite a few people. You hang out certain circles. When I, left, Tucson and I moved back, here, there's really only like one place locally that was, doing it. So I did it occasionally. The place even stopped doing open mics, but the guy, thought that I did well enough that he was like, all right, well, we're not doing open mics anymore, but if you do just want to come in every once in a while, do 5-minute spots. You can. It was a huge compliment. I wish I'd taken him up on it, but then, of course, COVID hit and I wasn't going anywhere. And I haven't gotten back into it. I really want to because it definitely was a heck of a lot of fun. I've always loved being on stage, doing theater, doing karaoke. But comedy's just been that really tough nut to crack because you really got to grind for like at least 10 years before, anything really happens. Before you're ready to like put out a special or whatever. So anyway, so now the most comedy that I usually, absorb is through podcasts. So there's a podcast called Kill Tony. And so now I'm talking about other people's podcasts on my podcast. But anyway, so if you're not familiar with Kill Tony, you should check it out. It is a pretty cool one. But the gist of it is he basically hosts an open mic and he has people go up for 1 minute. And then, because 1 minute, it's like, all right, if they're good, they can get a couple jokes in 1 minute. If they're bad, then they're only up there for a minute. And then he just keeps them on stage. He kind of asks them questions, rips them into them a little bit for the next couple minutes. Anyway, so the show opens, and what's different about this show is that there's this guy called Michael Lair. He has ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and he's trying to do the bucket list of doing a stand-up comic. And he's so funny that he usually closes the show out, and he usually can do as long as he wants to, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. He usually does at least 2+. And he's just, absolutely brilliant writer. And, so he usually just closes the show out. But, this time he opened. And so if you're not familiar with comedy, opening, going after somebody that just is an absolute murderer on stage is never the best, thing to do because now you got to reset the audience's energy. They're usually comparing you to the person that went up before. So it's an unenviable spot. And sure enough, first person name that gets pulled out of a hat is, they say the name. I'm just like, why does that sound so familiar? And then as soon as he starts speaking, it was Andrew motherfucking Horneman. All right, so this is one of the guys that I was, doing open mic nights with in Tucson. We hung out for a bit. I would call him my stand-up friend. He probably would call me his open mic acquaintance. It's fine. It's whatever. I would occasionally record his sets for him. We went out, after the club once or twice. In fact, he gave me one of the best compliments that I have ever gotten in my entire life. So it was a compliment and insult all in one. So he had seen me do stand-up for months at this point, right? And so then we go out and do karaoke. And of course, I've been doing karaoke for a decade. So I put in one of my go-tos, which is Dennis Leary's Asshole. And that's one where I can do the entire rant without looking at the screen. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get myself a 1967 Cadillac Eldorado convertible, hot pink, with whaleskin hubcaps and all of the cow and deer and big brown baby sailors headlights. Yeah, I'm going to drive around that baby 150 miles per hour. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but you get the idea. It's a long rant, and I basically had it memorized so I could do the whole rant without looking at the screen. A lot of energy, unlit cigarette hanging out of my mouth as a prop, and so of course, I get off stage, and he is just blown away, and he was like, "That was so good, that was so amazing. If you could somehow take that and bring it onto the comedy stage." So basically saying, hey, your comedy sucks, but if you can somehow do as good as you do at karaoke with stand-up, I think you get it. So it was really sweet. Like, I called him out on it. He was, very apologetic, but, it's something I still remember to this day because it's like, I know somewhere, somehow in me, I get that performer in me. I just got to figure out how to, write better jokes and, get that energy on stage because, despite having been on stage for pretty much my whole life, I still, when it's stand-up comedy and it's your own jokes that it's not somebody else's song that you're singing. It's not somebody else's lines that you're reading from a play. It's your own jokes that are going to, work or fail. based entirely upon how well you wrote them and how well you delivered them, and that is just a lot more pressure than I ever realized. So I definitely, lacked a lot of the energy and the that sixth sense, that ESP about how the crowd's feeling and how I'm doing, and just where to pause and stuff. So anyway, long story short, I knew the guy growing up, and so ever since I left the Tucson scene, there's at least been like a handful of people, like Matt, Osaya, Andrew, just to name a few, and that I've always been kind of keeping an eye out, because it's like, all right, they have that bug, and if they stick with it and they just grind and grind and grind, I know eventually they're going to be going someplace. And so, sure enough, he did the smart move. He moved to Austin. I'm not sure when, but he moved to Austin, and he signed up for Kill Tony, and he got lucky, because I think that, like, usually like 50 plus people sign up, and he was the first name to get pulled out of the bucket. Though I don't know how long he's been putting the name in, but he got it, and so he goes up, and he had to follow a really tough act, and so his set went great. They ripped into him for like 10 minutes. He took that well as well. And at the end, they gave him a big joke book and said, definitely come back. And that's a huge compliment. And if you don't know, I mean, it's like usually he'll just be like, okay, well, that was horrible. You should get out of comedy. If he thinks you did all right, but you need to work on some stuff, he'll give you a small joke book. If he thinks you did, really well, he'll give you a big joke book. If he thinks that you are a killer, sometimes, Red Band will, invite you to a secret show. And if you are like just undeniably amazing every single time you go up, he can make you a regular. So like to get a big notebook is definitely a huge, compliment, and that's what Andrew got. So I couldn't be prouder of him. They shouted out his Instagram handle. If you want to see it, it's the Kill Tony number 515. He shows up at about the 23-minute mark. And they shouted out his Instagram handle afterwards, which was A Horneman. That's AHORNEMAN. So I mean, he was destined for comedy, right? His last name is literally Horny Man. A horny man is his Instagram. So check him out. He's he put the time in. He's been doing it for like 10 years, and I was just so freaking like over the moon to see somebody that I knew, and I kind of was going up with, making it. And so Andrew, dude, that's awesome. I'm so freaking proud of you. And it's weird, because it's like I've been getting a lot of that lately. Like I went to visit my friends over in Massachusetts, and they're all crushing it. It's like they all have a house. Even my buddy Josh, shout out Josh Ledger, sanducustoms.com. He's got a cottage now that he's like renting out, and everybody's just doing so well. They have kids, and they have like a good life, and I just couldn't be more pleased that the people that I know and love are doing awesome for themselves. And it's funny because I see even like back in the day, comedians used to be a very bitter and jealous breed of it's like, well, how come they got that show, how come they got the spot, I've put in just as much time. And that's not how it is anymore, and it makes me so glad, because it's like and it's weird using the word proud. You know what I mean? It isn't like I lent Josh money for like for the cottage. It isn't like I lent Andrew some jokes, and that's what he used in order to kill. It's like no. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I think the only reason why like feeling proud kind of makes sense, where it's just like, well, I had nothing to do with it, but I definitely saw it in them, that they had it in them to to make it, like to do well. And, so it's like maybe even just having one person that was rooting for him helped them be like, you know what, I am going to take that risk. I am going to, move to Austin, or I am going to like get a cottage, both pretty big risks, and so far it's paying out for him. This all happened within like the same weekend. So that's why I'm kind of like lumping them together. I know that, getting a stand-up spot isn't the same as getting a cottage, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I have people in my life that I love and that are doing well, and I couldn't be happier for them. And it's just something that it made my heart swell, and I had to share it, because I was just so stinking jazzed. It's like it's like, oh my god, like people that like went to school with a celebrity, say it's just like, oh my god, I went to I had gym class with him or whatever. That's kind of how I was feeling with Andrew. It's like hearing his voice, especially after all this time. I mean, God, it's been years and years and years since I lived in Tucson. And I had no idea what became of any of them. And to hear as soon as I heard his voice, man, like that was just like, I was like, oh my god, no freaking way. So yeah, that was just a super cool thing, that happened this weekend, and I really had to share it, because it stinks, because there's some friends that like you kind of fall out of touch with. There's some friends that you see go down a bad path that you weren't able to turn them away from, and you just kind of had to separate yourself from. And then there's just some friends that it's just like, hey, you just genuinely like like no don't really talk to them or anything, but it's not like you ever wish them ill. And yeah, it's just I love hearing about that stuff. It's like you know, even my buddy Will. I got to meet his beautiful baby girl for the first time. It was actually kind of cool. Like this ended up being kind of like a reunion of sorts. Heading down to Massachusetts, I kind of get to see a big bulk of like the friends that I had in Mass. So that was just like a super cool. And just the icing on the cake is just like hearing an old open mic buddy like just making the rounds. He's getting up there. Like he's been grinding for 10 years and it's paying off. And it's just like that's what you got to do. Unfortunately, I mean that's why I'm calling this make better. It's just like you can't wait around for things to get better. You got to make it better. So I just love seeing people that were and are in my life making it better, and that's kind of what this is all about. Like this is I I would go on angry rants in some of my earlier episodes, and that's not the energy that I want to have, because I mean it's like we can all get pissed off about something. I mean if I'm going to do something like that, then it's like I should be getting pissed off about climate change instead of ranting to the camera. I should do go out and do something about it. And that's definitely something we should all do. It's like if we see a problem, uh, we should figure out a way to solve it. Kind of like if you're inventing or whatever, like from robots, see a need, fill a need. But angry rants aren't going to get anything done. So I want to try and make this more positive. And I'm glad that I had the weekend that I did, because honestly, on my end, I especially because like I went out and had fun and did stuff. So I I'm still smoking pretty much just as much. I'm still drinking pretty much just as much. I still haven't done much any new exercise routine, because I have the brace off for right now, but just to give it some air. But my wrist is still absolutely killing me. So like doing so many push-ups before each cigarette isn't still a thing. But yeah, I know I could jog or do something that doesn't involve my wrist. I'm making excuses, but I'm also holding myself accountable by making a recording of it and putting it out in the ether, so that that maybe two people that are currently watching, which I thank you guys for whoever is actually hitting and subscribing and stuff. I do appreciate it. It never had to be that big. It's just something for me, and hopefully something for animal lovers out there that got a couple useful tips for their dog or for their pet that they get from the store that they were kind of in over their head, and maybe hadn't done enough research yet. So I mean those people, I'm hoping it helps. But yeah, this is ultimately kind of narcissistic for me. And so if it's going to be for me, then I should make it something that I want it to be in the spirit of. And so absolutely 100%, let's have this be positive, and just couldn't be happier, couldn't be prouder for people putting the time in and making it in this world. And it's awesome. Like I can't wait till he like till Andrew puts out a special, and you know uh I can be like hey, hey, check out Netflix. I freaking I knew that guy. Or like like with Josh, if he just like starts like having a TV advertisements for his like real estate company, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I'd be like, hey, that guy in Hulu? Yeah, no, I know him. He was Bud. So yeah, everybody just keep on trying. Just keep on working at it. It's almost impossible if you really do just keep on grinding away at life, that you don't eventually have something go right for you, because it's going to be two steps forward, one step back for pretty much decades. And it's going to be anything to just dishearten some people. I mean, stand up and trying to make trying to make your own business, especially like those are two things that I can't um imagine, like that anybody unless you just like fell into money, or unless you happen to have like a relative in the biz that gets your foot in the door. I mean, other than that, like you just literally have to put the time in, and just it's like a muscle. you know um and that's what I'm starting to try and like look at, is that I envy so for instance this the the company that I work for is in this little like area where it's like uh, buildings, and it's just like a different company works in each warehouse of said building. And the company that I work at used to be owned by the guy who not only owned the company but also owns the entire, like that entire section, right? So he sold the company, and still kind of like and I guess there's like some little stuff for it, but for the most part, he's like done with that. But he still owns like the whole like area. The guy isn't really retired because like lately they just recently like put some extra parking spots in. So I see him there in his truck with a shovel, like laying down like the black stuff, and then like putting like the dark brown mulch stuff on. Like the dude's still doing so much stuff, and like he's probably like got more than enough money to live off of for the rest of his life. He's definitely like past retirement age, and he's still just going. And so those are the kind of people that that's why it's not that he's still going. He happened to own a company and he's still like that. It's that that's how he is, and therefore he's going to be that kind of guy that's probably always going to be doing at least a little something. Even if he fully retires, I guarantee you he's going to be the kind of guy that has like a big garden at his house. He'd be working on a freaking canoe. You know what I mean? Like he's that kind of guy. And so it's something that I always back in the day kind of lamented that I wasn't built like that. I didn't have that like go go go. If I have a day off, I like to just well, I don't like to. I usually end up lazing around, watching TV, maybe getting a couple dishes done, and then at the end of the day, I feel like a piece of crap because it's like I feel like I didn't get out of the house, I didn't do anything, so I just feel blah, because of that. And so I always lamented that I wasn't, like just my automatic setting was overdrive. And years later, nobody tells you this, but years later, it's like most of them that's not their automatic setting either. Like they literally like wake up each morning and go fuck, and they just and then really I went back to recording. You know what? The heck with it. I'm leaving it in. That's my whole thing, right? Just leave it in. So, all right. For those of you who are wondering what the heck just happened, so as many of you may know, my laptop pooped out on me, and so while I'm waiting for a to get a new one, I just been using my phone in between, which is hilarious because it actually seems to be better quality than the old stinking laptop that I was on. But long story short, this is the first time it's come up, but I actually got a phone call in the middle of talking, and it says that, oh, the video will be stopped and saved when you get phone calls. So I was like, are you kidding me? Well, all right. I needed to get the phone charged anyway. So I go off, I go grab the charger, I come back, and it went back to recording once the phone call was finished. So I don't know how long there was an empty couch here, but yeah. So I forget what I was saying. Something inspiring about like just put the work in, stuff that you probably haven't heard already, but I heard it. Some of this I didn't hear. Like some of this, like nobody told me that it's like, oh no. Like a lot of the people that are super successful aren't hardwired that like that. They literally just get up, go fuck my life, and then just do it anyway. Um, like like Rogan, Joe Rogan, who seems to be like um, to be built like that. Like he's even said on the podcast, it's just like, oh no, like I don't. I get up, I don't want to do it, I do it anyway, and then I feel like fantastic the rest of the day. If there's something that happens that I can't do it, now that now that his body and his mind and his routine are so used to it, then he'll feel like bad if he doesn't. So it's literally just like flexing a muscle where you just got to start doing that, do it consistently for like at least a year, and then when you have a day that you don't do it, then it's going to feel like that's the odd thing instead of the other way around where it's like if I just suddenly started waking up at 3 in the morning to get an hour workout routine in before going to work, that would be the jarring thing. But if I was doing that consistently for a whole year, and then all of a sudden, one morning the alarm doesn't go off and it was a day that I wasn't working and I sleep in, then that would be the weird outlier, if that makes sense. I'm basically saying the same thing about 80 different ways to do it. So, yeah, let's just move on. Again, all right, no, I'm not going to quite move on just yet because, again, this is a new muscle that I'm flexing. So, I mean, I might not come back with like, a wonderful progress report from the week before that it's just like, oh, yeah, down to, two cigarettes a day, running 8 miles, that's not going to happen overnight because it's still such a brand new muscle. And same thing with me trying to be motivational. Like I'm just kind of ranting and saying a lot of the same stuff again and again. Well, that's because this is all new to me. I usually would just go on, catch up on the day, and then somehow I would just end up, complaining about something. And so try not to go that route anymore. That doesn't mean that I'm not still gonna, complain when I have a valid thing to complain about. Especially if I think it'll be entertaining, but that, is not the focus, anymore. So, yeah, shout out to Andrew, shout out to all my friends, and I'm super psyched, and and I genuinely mean that. Like I'm not just being like, oh yeah, good for you because the camera's on. Like that was literally the first feeling that I had in my heart was just just it just swelled up, and I was just like couldn't have been happier. I was jazzed, and I was like I think yeah, I was like, running around like telling everybody, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, cool, man." Like, it isn't the same feeling if it wasn't you, but I don't know, I thought it was the best. So yeah, like I said, good weekend went by too quick, as they all tend to do. Um, I'm torn because I used to do when I was working retail, I used to have a day off, work a couple of days, a day off, work a couple of days. So like I had like let's say a Monday and a Friday off. And God, it feels like you have so much more time off when it does that because nobody told me that when you have the because I was retail for like 10 years and I kind of forgot, but nobody told me that when you have the weekend off, those 2 days go by just as fast as a day would go by. So you blink and then it's Monday again, and it's just like wow, it only really feels like you have a day off when they're next to each other. But I still wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Like I said, it's been a game changer being able to do stuff on the weekends, like I just did, go with my two girls, drive to Mass, get to do a cool, birthday party, hang out with my friends, catch up, just kind of relax, take it easy, like sit by the fire, smoke a stick, and just, I mean, those moments are what life's all about, like that's what they say is like, um, and I guess it's tough because now I realize, okay, I always have been content about, you know, not needing to kill myself at getting a job or kill myself like at my job. I always work hard. I always pride myself in being a good worker, but like I never really like tried to break myself to get the job that pays more than what I make because what I make I can comfortably live off of. So I've always just been very like low maintenance kind of guy and have worked accordingly. And now I realize it's like well you know, now you have, a girl, a dog, if you plan on having kids, it's just like it's not about you when you're making your money. It's like about, like you and everything that you're responsible for being able to live comfortably. So, I kind of dropped the ball when it comes to that. Like I should probably be a little bit further along than I am when it comes to that kind of thing. So, I am trying to lean more in the direction of like, all right, well, what's something that I could enjoy doing, but also would pay, enough that, I might be able to start doing some of the things that I want to. Not that I'm complaining about where I am at right now. I mean, this, if you're doing things right, you usually like where you are now. When you look back 10 years, you're just like, oof, being in an apartment with like 12 other people. Yeah, this is a lot better. So hopefully it's the same with whoever's watching that. If you might be having some lows as well, but like hopefully you can look back at you know how you're doing 10, 20 years ago and be like, well, I might not still be quite where I want to be yet, but definitely looking back, that's an improvement. Like, um, first time in my life that, nah, no, I was about to say something not true and then I caught myself, but I awkwardly had already started the sentence. So that's definitely something else I can start working on. Maybe planning what I'm about to say ahead of time a little bit better. But at the same time, I do want to also flex the muscle. Like, you know, uh, I don't know if, again, but going back to podcasts, I'm a big podcast junkie. So I do apologize if you don't care for my podcast being about other podcasts. I mean, unless that's what this is going to go. Unless I'm the like how they say the comics comic. Maybe I'll be the podcaster's podcaster. Like I'll just go on and just tell you, hey, these are all the podcasts you should be listening to, and nobody's giving me a dime to say it because I just genuinely believe it. I don't know. Maybe that's an idea. Maybe that can be a segment where it's just like, oh, I just found out this, new awesome podcast, or it's like, hey, this is one I've talked to you about before, but this is why you really should be watching it because this episode was just insane. Um, but yeah, I'm so freaking glad that I watched Rogan, learned about Tony Hinchcliffe through Rogan, found Kill Tony, and that I was able to um, hear Andrew on there because I don't know that I would have ever known that he was still out and doing it unless I stalked him on Facebook or something. But I'm not on Facebook, which I know if Josh is watching this, I got to get on, especially if I plan on some of the things that I have in the works. I got to be more present on social media than just a silly little YouTube channel that only me and a few people actually even know exists. So yeah, that's it for me. I wish I had more to update you on me doing better about myself, but you know what? I can, appreciate and be proud of and live vicariously through people that I know doing well, and that can be inspiring too. If you see people that you love and love crushing it, it's like well, hey, maybe I can crush it too, right? Yeah, yeah, I can. I have it in me to crush it. So yeah, hopefully, if you're out there and you're not crushing it at the moment, uh, you find something to get you inspired because there's nothing worse than what forces you to start making better is hitting rock bottom. Again, like this is part of the thing that I'm trying to do is um, I know for a fact that it doesn't have to be there, and honestly, for some people, they might just be so out of control that they have to hit rock bottom in order to be able to pick themselves up again. But here's to the hope that uh, that if whoever you are out there, if you don't think that you are doing as good as you think that you should be, that you don't feel that you need to just like keep on failing until you hit rock bottom before you start picking it up. At any point, you can turn the ship around, and maybe today's the day. Mark it on the calendar, like put a tweet out, or tell somebody else, like when you have accountability for making that change, it really does help get the momentum because that's what it's all about. Everything is about momentum. An object at rest stays at rest. If you can just get that freaking boulder rolling and get the knock some of the moss off, it's like it makes it so much easier. And maybe like I said, today's the day for you. I mean, maybe uh, you know maybe as soon as I heard him, that should have been like, oh, that's it. He's on Kill Tony now. I'm gonna do blah blah blah, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? I didn't. Instead, I just ran around like telling anybody that would listen that I friggin' hey, there's a guy that I know who's on a podcast that I listen to. How crazy is that? Um, so yeah, I think that's about it for me for right now. I mean, that's enough, isn't it? I mean, I'm already sick of myself, and I have to live with myself. So, see, there I go. That's not positive, Nick. That's starting to just poop on yourself because you ran out of things to gush about. So, all right, that's not how we're gonna end it. We're gonna end it with I appreciate you, and yeah, make better. I'm gonna keep saying it until it seems to grammatically make sense, but it's not gonna. And now I gotta go look back at that blank spot in the middle and see how bad that was. Maybe I'm probably gonna not even edit it out, just keep it in, just because it's gonna be like I'm gonna cut off mid sentence, and all of a sudden there's gonna be an empty couch, and then you're like, wait, there's still like 10 minutes left. What the heck?